Hello and welcome to episode 304 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at DynastyDad FF. Today's show, we got a good one for you. We hit last week on the Dynasty Buys for wide receiver, for running back. Today, it's going to be all about the quarterbacks, my favorite position. Snoog loves when we talk running backs. I love when we talk quarterbacks because this is such a huge area to make up value. The quarterback position is the most important in fantasy, and in Dynasty, it's even more important when we get to that fact. Nobody better to top it up with my main man Snoog. How you doing?
Doing good. I mean, the quarterback landscape's very deep right now, and it's very polarizing. A lot of guys fell off a little bit or got injured, and then there's some situations where there was a bunch of rookie quarterbacks that emerged. We saw the best rookie quarterback class since 2020, and before that, it's been a long, probably, 2019 with Lamar, Baker, Allen. Like, that one took so long to finally all shape out and look good. This one looks good after year one, so I'm excited to jump into this one. Talk about the quarterback landscape and some of our must buys because Super Bowl's over, the NFL season's over. It's NFL draft season and dynasty startup season. So this is when your fantasy football leagues are going to come back to life. People are going to start trading again. Rookie picks are going to start skyrocketing in value. And now is when you can start grabbing, if you don't already have them, your cornerstone quarterback pieces.
Yeah, my first one, and I know, you can't buy Lamar and you can't buy Daniels and you can't buy Josh Allen. You should not be able to buy Jalen Hurts, but you can. Jalen Hurts in 2021, 22.5 fantasy points per game in 6-point passing. 2022, 27.7. This past year, back at that 22.5. Everybody's acting like it was a major down year for Jalen Hurts. You saw what he was able to do in the Super Bowl. He can make all the passes. He gets all those rushing touchdowns over the last two seasons. I mean, that's the tush push has just taken over to a point where with Saquon Barkley, they're going to be in the red zone all the time. Snoog, he's gone from QB4 at the 104 to QB5, now going 107, 108 in startups. And I just don't understand it. I think this is the premium time to tear off of Daniels or Lamar to get Jalen Hurts plus.
Yep.
I think you can get, multiple picks on top. It's not just one first gap between Daniels and Hurts in a lot of people's minds. It's a first plus. And that doesn't make any sense to me because we're talking about a guy that has just put up elite level numbers over the last couple of years. I'm all in on Jalen Hurts. We're looking at new offensive coordinator coming in next year. I think we're going to see him throw the ball more. When he's able to run and when he's healthy, he is a top 3 dynasty quarterback. He puts up the points. He takes care of business. Snoog, I want you to hit on some of these trades from Dynasty Data Lab, but the hate is just too far. Like sometimes there's underrated quarterbacks and then there's overhated. And I think Jalen Hurts is overhated. Like people just have gotten bored the fact that he's a QB1 every year. This year he was QB6. 2 years ago he was QB1. The year before that he's QB5. This is a top 6 quarterback 3 years in a row, and people are starting to discount him. I don't get it at all.
Yeah, right away I see Bo Nix and Jameson Williams. If I could turn that into Jalen Hurts, it's a smash all day. Because to me, Jameson Williams is already one of the top guys you need to sell off your rosters. Yeah, that's a cowbell trade right there. Get Jameson Williams off your rosters, and you're turning Bo Nix into Jalen Hurts in a second, in my opinion. That's just a no-brainer move. Jumping over here, I like this one. I know probably most people won't, but turning Jaden Daniels into Hurts in a second, especially if that's like an early to mid-second in that 201 to 204 range in this year's class, I love it. Because to me, they're wishy-washy already, and I'm getting a second on top. I think that's a no-brainer move. What do you think about this one?
I think you're going to have to give up a first to move up to Daniels just for the age perception isn't as like,
and I would never do that. I would never do that.
But I think that's what you're going to have to do. I mean, what Jaden Daniels is 24, Jalen Hurts is 26. So the age gap isn't massive. You're just getting a guy that came out a little bit later in college and just has a little bit, go to there. But what do you got for me?
Look at this one. Baker Mayfield in a first or Hurts?
Oh, it hurts. I love Baker Mayfield. We're going to bring him up later in this situation. If it's just a random first, I'm not doing it. It would have to be 103, 104 for me at minimum.
This one right here is the definition of what I've been telling people to do. Get Josh Downs off your roster. Get Michael Penix off your roster. Use those type of players. Package up 2, 3 of them. Throw a first in there and go try to get yourself an elite asset. Absolutely love this trade, getting Jalen Hurts here, because to a lot of people, Michael Penix is gaining a ton of value. People think he's worth a first and a second plus. People think Downs is worth like a late first, early second. Then you're taking a first and two. Like, that's a bunch of turd sandwiches and turning it into a superstar, in my opinion. So
Yeah,
that's an
the
awesome
Penix
trade
hype.
there.
The Penix hype is too much. I think people are pushing him way too far up boards.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
then I see this one, Stroud for Hurts. Like, yeah, you
there's
guys
no
could suggest.
no, there's no point in that. I see Jalen Hurts and Marvin Harrison Jr. for Keon Coleman and 3 random 26 firsts. You get the 3 firsts for Hurts, and then you tier up from Coleman to Marvin Harrison Jr., who's one of my biggest, buys at the wide receiver position. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be. Everyone's like, well, you take away the tush push, what is he? I'm sorry, if you take away the tush push, he's still a top 5 quarterback. He's done it before the tush push was even involved. He was a guy that was rushing for much more yards. So when he's healthy, you saw it in the Super Bowl. He has incredible rushing upside. It's not just those touchdowns. Those touchdowns are what makes him even more special. But Jalen Hurts belongs in the top 5 dynasty quarterbacks. He belongs right up there in that same area as Jaden Daniels for me. Who's your number 1 quarterback buy? Because I wanted to hit on an elite, because I feel like no quarterbacks that are elite should really be a value, but I thought Jalen Hurts was. What quarterback do you see joining that elite status that is still a value?
Caleb Williams, because there's many reasons, but his rookie season wasn't even that bad to begin with. But being priced like in that QB 9 to 11 range, and he was regarded as like one of the best quarterback prospects we've seen in a while. Mm-hmm. Now he has Ben Johnson. Like, the biggest issue with the Bears has been they don't have the coaches ever. They never can develop quarterbacks. They got Ben Johnson. He is one of the best offensive-minded coaches in the NFL. They also brought in some of Ben Johnson's guys in that staff from the Lions. They brought in they're going to bring in the top 10 pick, which could be Will Campbell, could be one of these tackles, or it could be Ashton Junkie. Who knows what it's going to be. But to me, I see a guy in Caleb Williams with rushing upside. He's a guy that could be a 4,500-yard passer. He has already established elite young weapons with Rome Odunze and DJ Moore there. He also has Keenan Allen, who could come back for another year. Cole Kmet. DeAndre Swift's there if they don't go running back early. That's still a solid option. 3,500 plus yards, 20 passing touchdowns, 489 rushing yards.
Very underrated.
I'm seeing, so we have like a 400 to 500 rushing yard floor. There's probably going to be a year we get 600 rushing yards out of him, especially with Ben Johnson there. And if Ashton Juntie comes, and if they can land a tackle, or if they can land Will Campbell and Trevion Henderson around too. And there's so many options that this Bears team, and they also have a ton of cap to get this team better. I think they're going to do so. And I think Ben Johnson's the starting piece for them to do it. Caleb Williams, sign me up. I'm all over him in startups, and I'm trying to trade for him in every league I can. If you could get Caleb Williams in a first and a second for Jaden Daniels, I wouldn't think twice.
So speaking of sign me up, K Money said, hey, what's up again? Guys, YouTube, we are putting out 5 videos a week. If you guys like this kind of dynasty content, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Honestly, all those things help. Not even just the Patreon, but YouTube itself. You guys are getting so much extra value doing those things. Snoog, I'm looking at some trades here from Dynasty Data Lab, and like there are a lot of smash accepts here. Caleb Williams or Bo Nix and Pat Freiermuth.
It's not even close.
I was like, wait, are you thinking about this one? I was like, no, you can't be thinking about this one.
It's Caleb Williams all day.
And I'm even on this one. I mean, like Caleb Williams and CJ Stroud, 27 second, 27 fifth. I think all you're doing is resetting the clock. Like Caleb Williams had a mediocre rookie season. Stroud had a great rookie season and a mediocre sophomore season. There's a big difference, right? Like if Bo Nix comes out and has a mediocre sophomore season, just like Stroud did, his value is going to dip hard. If Caleb Williams, who had a mediocre rookie season, has a fantastic year too, dude's going to really start flying up boards. Let's get Caleb Williams and Dallas Goedert, or Jonathan Taylor, Derek Carr, and a random 25 first.
Caleb Williams, like not thinking twice. I have Caleb Williams. We just did our startup show, Big Board, and I had him right in that early second round range. I think he's one of the guys in that second round that could sneak into the first round heading into next year. I also think like a hot take could be that he could like replace Jaden Daniels. Like he could, we saw how this year with Stroud,
That is
Stroud and
high.
Bryce Young. I'm not saying Bryce
So
Young.
what?
Bryce Young's not on CJ Stroud's level. Like that's just I
Yeah.
laugh when people say that. But Stroud had some growing pains down the stretch, and Bryce Young finally found his rhythm. And then people started making that argument. So I could see a scenario where Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson start off hot, and then he starts crushing it, and they flip in value. Like it's closer than you think it could happen, and they're closer than you think they are as talents. So that's where I'm like, okay, I can get a big plus on top of Jaden Daniels to go get Caleb. That's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, and people are down. I mean, I see one here, Justin Fields and a late first for Caleb Williams. Fields is a guy that's probably going to land a starting job somewhere, but I don't think they're anywhere near the same level. Jalen Hurts and Drake London or Caleb Williams, Chris Olave, an early first and early second.
Yeah, I'm taking Caleb Williams there too.
So I lean Jalen there. It gets a little bit tight, but the gap that I'm interested in here is I see Caleb Williams in a third for Drake Maye. Caleb Williams should be above Drake Maye. But then Justin Herbert in a second for Caleb Williams. I think that's the area where you pick your poison between Justin Herbert, Caleb Williams, Drake Maye, CJ Stroud. If you get a second on top of these guys, you go either direction. Williams is my favorite of the group. I think we're going to start to see his value really just bump back up considerably. The guy that I like here was a QB4 this past season. I think his value, it doesn't make sense. He has been so good since he went to Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield's value, you look at him on most people's evaluations. If you take away the names and you just play profiles, he has put up back-to-back phenomenal seasons. He is someone that you can get right now in the round 4 of your startup. He has most sites have him ranked somewhere between QB 15 and 17, but he's had back-to-back QB1 seasons with Mike Evans, with Jalen McMillan, Godwin possibly coming back. Like he just gets it done. This is someone that I just think the value doesn't match the production. For years, we had those guys where we said they were the Kirk Cousins type, right? Where you could buy them for a late first because the value doesn't match the production. Snoog, I'm willing to pay the 105 for Baker Mayfield right now. Like I think Baker Mayfield is in the prime of his career. He's got that moxie back, like after his rookie year, a lot of people forget how good he really was when he was rookie of the year, looked fantastic. And then he slumped from year 2 and 3 with a horrible organization with the Browns. And everybody started to just forget about him. Then he went to Carolina. But since he's come to Tampa Bay, he's the real deal. I'm willing to buy him wherever I possibly can because I think the trades for Baker Mayfield just don't make sense.
Yeah. I mean, look at this one right here. This one I think is decently close, but I'm definitely taking Baker here. Baker and Swift or T-Law in a second. Market value-wise, I feel like that's Baker all day. I could see it flipping because I do think T-Law, he's going to be on this list very shortly, who we talk about. But who are you taking there?
I mean, I love Trevor Lawrence too, but I'm taking Baker. Baker's just done it. People act like he's older than what he is, but he's in that prime of his career.
Yeah. What about this one? Baker Mayfield or CMC in a second?
Baker Mayfield. I like CMC, but I just don't think. Give me a quarterback who's going to be a QB1 for the next several years rather than a running back who I might get for another good season.
What about Baker Mayfield or Penix and Jordan Whittington?
Say that one again.
Baker Mayfield or Penix and Jordan Whittington?
That's disgusting. This whole Michael Penix hype over one good game. He was not necessarily good. He was not a great prospect. He's in a good landing spot, but that's about it for me. I'm selling Michael Penix there. And Jordan Whittington, just stop. The Jordan Whittington, Jalen Coker, stash these guys, invest in these guys. I'm sorry, they're going to get replaced. There are multiple wide receivers that are going to go there. So, Baker Mayfield all day.
I think this is about what I'd be comfortable paying for him. You see Baker for a first and a second or Baker for a first and 2 seconds. I feel like that's an absolute ceiling of what someone would pay for him. But where do you kind of have him price around in terms of what his value is pick wise? What pick are you paying 2025 straight up, first wise? And then what are you paying in terms of first and seconds?
So you don't have to. I've moved him into my like in the Patreon. I have every guy valued at what their market cost is to me. It's not market cost from other websites. It's mine. And from what we've seen on Twitter, what we've accumulated from guys in the Discord, I would comfortably pay between the 104 and 106, but I don't think you have to. I think you take 107 through 112, you add a second, or you even like a late first for me, plus some of these other quarterbacks that I don't believe in to move up.
Yep.
I think you can take some of these Geno Smith type, add a first and get yourself to Baker Mayfield. A lot of people don't look at Baker Mayfield as a QB1 that I love as my QB2. I bought him in multiple situations last year. I bought him as my QB2. I paid a random 26 first plus for the playoffs. He won me the championship. And now it's like, dude, I'm in. Like I have to get Baker Mayfield where I can. This shout out here, Trevor Porter. He says, hey guys, just wanted to share. My trade partner heard our deal on your show. Had no idea he listened to you guys as well. Shout out to you, A No Hurts. I love it. Because Trevor won our free Patreon for a year giveaway. Dude wanted to be in there so bad he bought all 5 spots. So it was a pretty easy win to get that one. But yeah, Baker Mayfield for me is the new Jared Goff. He's the new Kirk Cousins, where people are just going to act like it's not sexy, but he's going to put up QB1 numbers every single year for the next 3 or 4 years. And go ahead and buy him. Buy him on the cheap. Insulate down off of a riskier Bo Nix. Trade Bo Nix for Baker Mayfield plus. I think you could do Bo Nix in a second for Baker in a first, and you end up winning big time. So who's your next guy? So we've hit on 3. Who's that 4th guy? Who's your second one that, you know what? It's time to buy this guy.
Yeah, I'm going to go with one more pricier guy. It's going to be CJ Stroud, and him and Caleb Williams are kind of priced in that back-to-back range, in that like 9 through 11 range. CJ Stroud, to me, had the down year, but so did that entire Texans offense. Nico Collins was injured for multiple games, and then Diggs tore his ACL like 6 games into the season. Then Tank Dell, they finally started hitting their rhythm, the Texans offense, and then Tank Dell broke his leg against the Chiefs. John Mechie, Robert Woods, Xavier Hutchinson were literally playing for a majority of the season, and it was just disgusting. If you look at what CJ Stroud did to the Bills and to the Lions, he went out there with 0 weapons, no Nico Collins, and absolutely he beat the Bills. He almost beat the Lions as well. There was still so much promise, and he started off the season really solid. Like he was averaging like 270 plus passing yards a game. The touchdowns weren't there because Joe Mixon was an absolute touchdown vulture down every time they got in the red zone. But I think they got Nick Caley from the Rams, their tight end coach. So he's coming. They're going to have a completely new offensive build, in my opinion, with that Sean McVay kind of tree type style and scheme. We're going to see a lot of motion. We're going to see a lot of throwing the football across the middle of the field. I think this offense and Nick Caley is going to bring kind of CJ Stroud's Ohio State offense back. And I really do think that they're going to go get either hopefully Tyler Booker from Alabama, the guard, because their offensive line is atrocious and they really need to keep building it and adding pieces and finding the right fits. But I really want them to go get a Emeka Egbuka there. And they're probably going to have to trade up a few spots to get him. But in that 25 pick range, I keep seeing them taking people saying they're going to take Matthew Golden up. No, go get a Emeka Egbuka. You need a true slot guy that can play the Z, that can play the outside, that can win across the middle of the field. CJ Stroud played with him. Him, Nico Collins, and Stroud would be absolutely phenomenal. I just think things are going to get better for CJ Stroud all around. Mainly, we just need to see that offensive line get better because we saw last night, the best quarterback in the NFL couldn't do anything without an offensive line protecting for him. So that should just go to show all the Justin Herbert hate last year, not this year. Last year before they got Joe Alton, their O-line stunk. CJ Stroud this year. Bryce Young when he was a rookie. Trevor Lawrence when he was a rookie. Caleb Williams this year. All these quarterbacks, when you don't have an offensive line, unless you're Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen and can run nonstop and get away from pressure, you're going to struggle. It's that simple. So I really think that he had growing pains that he shook off. He looked really good against the Chargers and the Chiefs, and he started running the ball more. He had like 40-plus rushing yards in both games. So I think CJ Stroud going to add some more rushing to his upside, get some better weapons, and fix that offensive line. And he's going to have a big bounce back year this year.
Whenever you say CJ Stroud, Snoog gets
I can
on
talk for 10 minutes.
I know. So you mentioned Bryce Young, and here's the interesting one for me is We talk about you could flip-flop players. You could trade this player plus a pick and this player plus a pick, and you flip-flop it year after year. Bryce Young, the 204 and a 26 first, or CJ Stroud?
CJ Stroud, easy.
I think I'm taking Bryce Young there. I know that's crazy, but I think at the 204, I'm going to get another running back.
If they get Ted McMillan, or if they actually get a good offensive weapon, I think I would probably go Bryce there too. Just because Bryce is another one that's gaining. Bryce is a good player, and people wrote him off so quick. I didn't know if he was ever going to really be able to bounce back, because I really just didn't think the Panthers were ever. But once they got Canales, it was kind of guaranteed that he was going to be good. He finally got a guy that can make things simple for him, and that's what he needed.
CJ Stroud or Chris Olave in the 112?
Yeah, Stroud, I'm smashing in that one. I see this one, Derek Carr first and a second. I'm taking Stroud all day there too.
How about this? Brock Purdy and Rome Odunze, which Rome Odunze was on our wide receiver buys. I'm sure we're going to bring up Brock Purdy in our quarterback buys, or CJ Stroud and Ricky Purcell.
Brock Purdy and Rome Odunze.
That's close.
Right? I could go either way. That's a risky one. That's one that you got to feel strongly about, either Rome Odunze or Ricky Pearsall.
It's the Purcell versus Odunze, where you have, we got a Michael Kensel just signed up for the Patreon. He put Dynasty Gods. He's got a question here on Super Chats. Snoog, I want to hit this one here. It says, "Hi guys, put out a trade offer. Offered Mike Evans, Austin Eckler, this year's 107, a 26 first, and a 26 second for Kenneth Walker, Trey McBride, and Zach Charbonnet. And this year in the 3.04. So that's a lot to digest. So let's look at. So for me,
107
Walker in the what I was going to say, Walker's pretty close to the 107. You know what I mean?
I take 107, but yeah.
But
I'd say Walker and Sharp equals the 107. That package, those two.
But I want Trey McBride over everything else. Trey McBride is such a difference maker. Michael, you're going to thank you for the super chat. You're going to love that side, because honestly, Trey McBride is such a difference maker. We just did our startup draft. He's one of the guys that you got to go out there and buy. The positional difference between Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, and everybody else is so massive. You can't buy Brock Bowers, but you can still buy Trey McBride. I'm doing it everywhere I can. We mentioned it, so he was going to be a little bit later in the show for me, as far as a buy. But I think Bryce Young is a buy at this point. I think Bryce Young, we saw what Dave Canales could do with him. We saw how he went from getting benched. And I said it when it happened, right? When it happened, I said, this is probably the best thing that could ever happen for Bryce Young, because he looks lost. And what we saw, you and I preferred Stroud in the process, and Anthony Richardson. We preferred him, as prospects over Bryce Young. But then I was buying, everything's cyclical. Everything is you could take advantage of it. I was buying Bryce Young. I bought him for as cheap as 2/3. I bought him for late 26 seconds.
I got him in the 13th round of a startup. And David Gutierrez, one of his startups he ran. I got him in the 12th or the 13th round.
And he was able to, down the stretch, have a nice rushing floor. He had 5 rushing touchdowns over the final 7 weeks. Over the final 7 weeks, he was a top 10 quarterback. Again, like what we were talking about with multiple other quarterbacks throughout the process, no weapons at all, right? Xavier Legette and Adam Thielen, that's a bottom 5 pairing of wide receivers. I think now they add, a guy through free agency, or they draft a Ted McMillan, or they draft a guy in the early second round. He's only going to get better. I don't think you're ever going to see him with top 5, top 8 ceiling, but I think he's going to just be sitting there where you could see him have multiple back end QB1 type deals or seasons. You could see him being QB 12 to 15. And I think in most people's dynasty rankings, he is in that, again, 15 to 18 range. Snoog, I keep bringing up that range. That's where you make your money. Most people, the top of it, it's the same. It's Allen, Jackson, Daniels, Burrow, Hurts, Mahomes, Herbert, Williams, Love, Stroud, Maye, Kyler, Bo Nix. But then after that, you got Brock Purdy, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, Tua, Lawrence, Young, McCarthy, Penix, Dak, Darnold, Richardson. That's where you're going to make your money. If you pick the right guys in there. And for me, Bryce Young's one of the cheaper options. So let's go over some of these trades that you're seeing here for Bryce Young.
Yep, let me pull it up.
I mean, the first one's kind of ridiculous. I'm not touching that one. But you see Jordan Love or Bryce Young and a 27 and 25 first. 2 firsts, the gap
Taking
is
Bryce.
1 first there. It's not
Yeah.
2. You know, like I'm definitely not doing 2 there. Bryce Young or Aaron Jones. Like, come on, that's not even a thing. Bryce
that
Young,
one's nice.
Bryce Young and a 25, 27 first or Drake May. As much
That's
as I
what I was
love
gonna
Drake
say.
May, the insulation there for Young, it's not as sexy, right? But I think the value's there. As long as those aren't too late first, I think that's a smash. Bryce Young and Isaiah Likely for a 25 first. Bryce Young and 1 first for Darnold and 2 firsts. That one's a little bit trickier. Like I think I lean Darnold.
Yeah, these are a lot of like pretty good, like Bryce or McCarthy in a set. Like, there's a lot of good ones here that are like pretty market value, pretty close. He definitely gained a lot of value to the consensus. Like Bryce are 2 first, so I'm seeing that he definitely got a lot of his value back, which is good
2
to
first,
see.
I'm smashing. He's gone. He's off my roster.
Oh yeah, he's gone. Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
I brought.
I
up
don't think
Baker
he ever
Mayfield.
really has upside. Like, what's his upside? Like, he'll never be a 5,000-yard passer. He's never going to be a guy that rushes for 800 yards and 5 times. Like, that's why I don't really know what like a Bryce Young's upside. Maybe it's like a Russell Wilson light in Seattle type upside. Like, that's what I had him. That was my comp for him, was Russell Wilson when he was coming out, which could be like, but he's not the same rusher as like Russell Wilson is, I don't think. But he kind of showed that he could be this at the end of this year. So a lot of unknown with Bryce Young, honestly.
That's why I was like, we can't say he doesn't have the rushing upside. Because like there towards the end,
kind of can.
I mean, if you look at him from that final 7-game stretch, he had 68 yards and a touchdown. He had 24 yards and 2 touchdowns, 29 yards, 30. So the rushing floor is starting to get in there. I think he's starting to look like a guy that has QB2 upside. I would love him as my QB3 because you're going to see him increase in value. I would not want to see him as my QB1. I'm not super comfortable with him as my QB2, but my 3, I'm kind of there. We got a question here from Reese on YouTube. He said, in a shallow league, I know it's not optimal. How do you value QBs in an 8-man league? I have Lamar, Hurts, Mahomes, and Purdy. So I talk to guys all the time, Snoog. 12 and 14, when we're talking about values, you and I are talking about 12-team superflex. That's the standard. Once you go up to 14, the quarterbacks are worth more because it's a lot more scarce. Once you go down to 10, the quarterbacks are worth less. However, I think the elite quarterbacks are worth more because of the gap. But when you get down to 8, you can't be carrying this many quarterbacks. Like I think I'm trading Hurts and Purdy. I'm rolling with Lamar and Hurts. I'm rolling Purdy and Mahomes. I'm trading both of them. Lamar, Hurts. I'm going to take Mahomes and turn him into Baker plus. I'm going to trade Purdy for a wide receiver. It's 8-team. You got to do some 2-for-1s. You got to be elite because that's just such a shallow format.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing some roster reviews for people, and a lot of them they had like one guy had Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Michael Penix, and Bo Nix. And I was like, you got to get those 2 quarterbacks off your team, dude. Get rid of Penix and get rid of Nix. Like, get rid of them now.
Yeah.
And he was like, well I like having like a good QB3. I go get Geno Smith.
Yes.
Go get Bryce Young.
Down. If you have 4 quarterbacks today, you want to tier down off of one of them, right? You're going to take that one.
3.
And then you go and you keep that third one. So when I have 4, when I see a roster of 4 good ones, I take the third best guy and I tier down from him, the second or third, whoever has the most market value. I tier down from him and add a quarterback. And then the 4th guy, like a Bo Nix, I'll trade Bo Nix today for Devon A-Chain, for Jackson Smith and Jigba, and smash that all day long because that's where we're at there. So again, Bryce Young isn't my super sexy one. He's not my absolute must buy. I was buying him when he was cheap. I still think he's relatively cheap enough because people have not paid attention. Who is your next quarterback buy?
Yeah, I'm going to keep things on par with a cheaper guy, Trevor Lawrence. And to me, Trevor Lawrence is a guy that's
who I wanted over Young, but
we've seen the promise. He has the pedigree. He's been a guy that's been a 4,000-yard passer. He's won a playoff game. He has Brian Thomas Jr. He has Christian Kirk. He has Evan Ingram. He's got weapons. Parker Washington, Brenton Strange, Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, and they're picking 5th overall. I would love to see them draft Will Campbell. I know their defense is really bad in terms of like their run defense, but they got a lot of good pieces on that defense. They have 2 really elite defensive linemen in Trevor Walker and Josh Allen. They have I don't even know how to say his name, like something Aluakon or something like that.
Yeah.
Their middle linebacker that's like
Comic-Con?
always the lead. Yeah. He's always one of the best pure tacklers and run stuffers in the NFL. They got pieces on defense. They need secondary, but to me, if Travis Hunter's not there, there's no secondary piece or defensive tackle worth taking 5th overall. Go get Trevor Lawrence, his elite tackle. Go get Will Campbell. Go get him a pure protector there.
Yeah.
And then they brought in Liam Cohen from Tampa Bay, who's a very good offensive-minded coach. That's exactly what Trevor Lawrence needed. He's going to build an offense around Trevor Lawrence with these weapons that helps him get the ball in the hands of his playmakers and makes things easy for him. He's still young. He's still 25 years old. He has the contract. At the price he's at and with the trades that you can get him for, like I'm buying into Trevor Lawrence all day long because I just think he has some right away, fire away.
Let's talk about some trades we get excited about. This time of year, Snoog and I, some of you guys have mentioned on YouTube, you're like, you guys occasionally talk over each other. Like, we're both so excited because this time of year, we're trying to get you as much information in as short a period of time as possible. So this one's fun because you and I are both buying Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is about to get paid. He's going to, honestly, I think be a phenomenal dynasty quarterback. Are you taking Brock Purdy or the quarterback from Duval and the AJ Barner in the 25-second? Like, I think you could go either way on this. I think Lawrence is really going to cover that gap pretty soon. Like, I think Lawrence could pass Purdy as good as Purdy's been, but I like Purdy more.
I need an early second to do it, to take Lawrence. Yeah.
I don't think you're getting a first, but I mean, that I think in this deal, like the AJ Barner's not the guy to do it. That guy needs to be worth a second. That needs to be Jonnu Smith or something like that. This one's kind of fun. Kyler Murray, Keon Coleman in a second, or Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields?
I'd go Kyler Murray side here.
Same.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can find one where we're buying on that one. All right, here's a fun one. This is how you and I we don't hate Michael Penix, but we're also just saying trade him. Michael Penix Jr., Jerry Jeudy in a late first, or Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. Stack that cash. Like, honestly,
I'd take BTJ over that side alone. So it's a free Trevor Lawrence, honestly. I don't hate Michael Penix. I don't know the guy, but he's not good at football, and I'll tell you that.
Like,
I'm open about that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you everybody's good. Like, I will tell you who I think is bad and who you need to sell off your dynasty rosters. We've been doing this for multiple years now. But, like, I'm taking T-Law over McCarthy. I'm taking T-Law and Najee in a third over Dak. I'm taking – maybe not on that one. I think I'd go with Baker there. But it's close. Like, I definitely would take T-Law in a first. What the heck is that? T-Law in a first or a second?
How about a couple theoreticals from the Discord here? Jordan Love or Trevor Lawrence in a 27 first?
Trevor Lawrence.
Okay, that one's pretty close for me.
Close.
How about Justin Herbert and a second, or Trevor Lawrence a 27 first and a 25 first?
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, but I think it's feasible, right? I think you can get going from Mahomes or Herbert, adding a second. I think you can get 2 first because a lot of people are so down on Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
But the talent is there, the pedigree. It wasn't that long ago that we were considering him as a first-round startup pick. I think he's going to bounce back value. And a lot of times we're just trying to find a guy that's going to give you value in this area. We've already mentioned some – go ahead.
I was going to say, and what we look for in these type of quarterbacks to hit and to bounce back and to be breakouts is coaching staff, weapons. Mm-hmm. Do they have talent? Do they have a contract? Trevor Lawrence, Baker Mayfield, these guys all check all those boxes. So
what I'm looking for this time of year, and I love that you mentioned that, is like, because we're looking at things that really are important because we're talking February. So where I said I'm drafting Bryce Young, I'm trading for Bryce Young because there's going to get a weapon. We just did our startup draft. This is the steal of that late second. Give me Drake Maye. Drake Maye right now, 3 top 10 finishes in his first 8 starts. You look at him, he came in and he had 4 multiple touchdown games. He was someone that finished with a really solid floor, and we saw what he was able to do rushing wise. I mean, he lit it up in the middle of the season. He had games of 8 for 95, 3 for 46 and a touchdown, 5 for 38, 5 for 59. If he's going to rush with that kind of floor, Snoog, behind a mediocre offensive line and with no run game or offensive weapons at all, I mean, he was able to put up respectable numbers with the worst offense in the league. Let's get him another offensive tackle. Let's get him a wide receiver in free agency. Let's get him a Chris Godwin as a security blanket. Let's get him,
Yep.
An elite upside wide receiver on the outside, like in this year's draft. Maybe let's get him Tez Johnson to stretch the field. Let's get him some weapons because there's nothing there. There is nothing there. It's bad. Yeah, I mean, they wasted a pick on Jalen Polk. Javon Baker, they didn't let get on the field for some reason. Demario Douglas has incredibly low upside. Let's get this man some weapons. And this is someone that I say is guaranteed to increase value from now till May. Like that's just it. You see this, the writing's on the wall. Bryce Young will increase value because they'll draft somebody. That they're going. Trevor Lawrence is not going to increase value via the draft, but once he starts playing, he's going to increase in value. Some of these other guys, the writing is just on the wall where you draft Bryce Young in the 5th round, and then they draft Tet, and now all of a sudden he automatically moves up to 3rd round, 4th round. And I think Drake Maye is going to move up into that mid-second. I'm all for it. Are there any good trades when it comes to Drake Maye? Because I feel like his value to the sharps, right? Like the guys that are in our Discord, the guys that I see on Twitter, that are analysts, they understand Drake Maye, but I feel like your standard league mate might not.
Yeah. So right away, jumping into some of the trades, you taking Drake Maye or Adams in a first in 2026?
Drake Maye all day. That would have to be the one, like top 3 pick.
Yeah.
Or else you automatically lose.
Like right away, Drake Maye, Pickens, or Breece Hall and Cup. We saw when we just did our startup mock, ADP wise, Dynasty Data Lab has Drake Maye and Breece Hall not super far apart. They're probably within 10 picks apart, and Pickens significantly over Cup. So Drake Maye smashing this, but I could see this is a type of trade that you could probably get done if a guy has 4 quarterbacks, like we talked about earlier. And Drake Maye's the QB3, and they're just I want to get a stud running back or something like that. You could probably weasel someone into doing something like this.
You see that one on the far left there? I'm going to bring it up. It's Anthony Richardson, Isaiah Pacheco, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Hollywood Brown, and a 27
sandwiches.
You know what that is? That's you polish up them turd sandwiches, you throw them out there, and you get Drake Maye. Anthony Richardson's one of the toughest guys to sell. I do think he bounces back in value, but I mean, the rest of this trade is just I don't want any of those guys on my roster. I mean, I think Pacheco's going to get replaced. Cousins and Rodgers aren't even starters. Hollywood Brown is a ghost at this point in the 27-second all day. I got a trade question. A couple guys saw that. Tatum said, would you trade J.J. McCarthy and Terry McLaurin for Drake Maye?
Yes.
I'd smash that.
Yeah.
I would smash that all day.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, what I'm saying here is guys like Drake Maye, guys like Bryce Young, we know they're going to get increases in value. Go ahead and kick the tires. Go out there and buy them. Let's do one more each here. Maybe a veteran or under the radar type guy, or someone that's, someone that you would be like, I'm not going to get him in round 2 of my startup, but I think this is someone that I want to invest in.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Anthony Richardson here. And
yeah, good.
The reason why, he's still only 22 years old going into year 3. He has the rushing ups. He had 500 rushing yards in 11 games this year. And if you really look at it, it was really 10 games because he played 10% of snaps in week 4. But he has the rushing upside to be an elite quarterback in fantasy football, even if he doesn't do that good as a passer. His floor is literally 500 yards and 6 touchdowns rushing in 10 games. That's ridiculous. If you pace that out, he's probably at 812 touchdowns rushing. Probably would have had 2,500. He would have been a top 10 finisher. And at 22 years old, I mean, he has Steichen there, so he has the perfect coach for his development. They had the 14th pick. Their weapons are solid, but if you really think about their weapons, they're honestly just very mid. Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Adonai Mitchell, they don't have a guy. They don't have the guy. They need the guy. I think it's going to be Tyler Warren, who they pick at 14, and I think it's going to help Anthony Richardson tremendously going into year 3, having that safety blanket, that consistent target, the guy you can get involved in the screen game. And then Pittman's going to be healthy this year, who's a really solid piece, as well as A.D. Mitchell going into year 2. Josh Downs, another very solid high-end slot guy. So to me, Anthony Richardson, you can get him for so cheap, and the upside is through the roof. So why not just swing for the fences there? Even if he sucks, all right, you paid an early second or a late first. That's 112. So
he's now going as QB 23 in the same area as Jameson Williams, Chuba Hubbard, and DK Metcalf.
Yeah, let's
So
pull up some trades.
the risk is not there anymore. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Is like,
Yeah.
I think Anthony Richardson, like Bryce Young, to me is the perfect QB3. I'm okay if I have Anthony Richardson as my QB2, but I want to make sure that my QB3 is someone that's going to be productive, a Matthew Stafford, a Geno Smith, like something that I know is going to be safe. But I mean, we've seen the ceiling here, and he's going after Bryce Young, after Dak Prescott, after JJ McCarthy, after Penix Jr. considerably. And do we love him as a quarterback? No, absolutely not. But as a dynasty producer, like these trades, I think you're getting absolute great value when it comes to Anthony Richardson. We just talked about Trevor Lawrence. What's the gap between the two of those right now? If you had Trevor Lawrence and I offered you, would you do Anthony Richardson in 203?
Yeah, I'd take A-Rich there.
Where does it have to be?
There.
Mid second?
Probably like a mid to late second where I would take Lawrence. But to me, it's like they're both – Richardson's definitely cheaper if you just look at these trades. But I'm really honestly at the point where I'm looking at these trades, other than a few of them, I'm like, yeah, this is as expected. Like, this is what I thought he would be worth, like, to what people think. Like, 3 seconds for Richardson, 80 minutes on a second. It's probably like, there's probably like 201 or 202 or 203 in there. But him for Judy straight up. A-Rich and Chase Brown for 2 firsts. Like, these are the type of things I can see.
Look at the upside of this. I mean, Jerry Judy's upside is a wide receiver 18. You know what I mean? Where Anthony Richardson still, you had the phenomenal season. You had a down season like you had Stroud. But the rushing upside, I mean, he's still a guy that can put up 30 points on any given day. Like, if you're really rebuilding.
Yeah, he has crazy upside.
If you want to get off, you want to take, when you're rebuilding, you want to take a home run swing sometime. And, you still saw multiple weeks this year where he was QB4 in week 1 with 212 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, 56 yards. Almost every single game, you saw him rush for 50 plus yards. I mean, he towards the end when he started to get healthy again, Snoog, the final 3 games for Anthony Richardson, I don't think people are paying attention. But he finished QB 9, 15, and 14 with 3 touchdowns, 1 in each game, 40 plus rushing yards in every single game. We talked about it before, is what him and Justin Fields have done is they have to just have like 150 passing yards and a touchdown, because the rushing is going to be there every game, that they're a worthy QB2. And by the way, I'm low key buying Fields on the cheap. I bought him for a pair of thirds the other day. I bought him for a 27 second. I think he's going to have an increase in value. But these trades, I mean, there's a lot of these. Anthony Richardson, Khalil Shakir, or Kendre Miller in a first and a second in 2026.
Yeah, it's Anthony Richardson all day.
If
you look at Anthony Richardson's, so he's played in 15, technically 14 full games in his NFL career. And he's had QB2, QB4, QB9, QB4, QB4, QB15, QB14, and then QB19, QB23, QB25, QB31. That's like...
So only one outside the top 24 finish.
Only one outside the top 24 finish in a full game that he's played. And he's been in the top 10 multiple times, almost half of his games. And he's been in the top 15 in more than half. So that's crazy, because for me, I'm still thinking, like, I'm still seeing him play, and it's, oh my God, big play, that's sick, he's nasty, and then it's, what the heck are you doing? He just needs to get the consistency down, and if he can do that, it's going to pay off big time.
All right, like I said, in startups right now, I mean, would you rather have Jameson Williams or Anthony Richardson?
Yeah, I'd take A-Rich.
Anthony Richardson or Chuba Hubbard?
I think he deserves to be a little higher than this range he's in, but like,
because the guy's going in front of him. I mean, I think he belongs more in that Tua, Waddle, Worthy, Pickens range than he does where he's falling right now.
I agree.
He's going a couple picks ahead of Dalton Kincaid right now. You know, like that's going to correct itself. I do like that a lot. Let's go one more completely under the radar, outside the top 30 type quarterbacks. Someone that, you think could just gain some value. And for me, I mean, I've already said it a couple times. Justin Fields right now is going QB 31. I just can't see a scenario where he doesn't. where he doesn't at least get a shot somewhere. I think Pittsburgh knew what they were doing. They started for him for multiple games. Then they went with Russ so they could see what they had in Fields rather than try to jeopardize the season and roll with him the whole way. They wanted to see what they had. I think they saw enough. If he's there, I mean, what was his ceiling? Like it was really solid floor because of the rushing upside. Like this year he was much more efficient than he was last year. But you see what he did over 6 games, QB 7, QB 1, QB 16, 12, 19, and 24. So he was a top 24 quarterback in every single game. And
he was on a hot streak before they benched him. In that week 3 to week 6, he was starting to heat up.
5 rushing touchdowns.
And then they just benched him out of nowhere.
He had 11 touchdowns in 3 weeks, and they're like, you know what? We're going to go Russ. And I think
I could see him going to like Vegas. I could see him going to I could see him going to Vegas. I could see him going to Cleveland. I could see him going to one of these teams that say to themselves, does Jackson Dart or Shedeur Sanders, are they that much better than Justin Fields? And there's going to probably be a team or two in that top 10 to 12 range that say that. I could see him going to the Jets. I could see this type of, and people would hate that for Garrett Wilson, but I would love it if Fields went there because he's played with them for multiple years in college. And he was really good with DJ Moore in Chicago. And he was really good with Pickens. So hate him or love him. He's dirt cheap and he has QB1 upside when he plays.
Absolutely. Hey, Michael's on the grind right now. I love it. He's got another super chat here. Brees. In DFBB, Dynasty Brees or Jonathan Taylor, Dak Brees. Or A-Rich. I'm going Brees for sure over Taylor. I think Taylor is good, but I mean, if this is the same team, I don't want to stack A-Rich and Jonathan Taylor. I think Dak versus A-Rich is really interesting because I'm going with Dak, but if I'm rebuilding, I think I'm going to go with Anthony Richardson because he has more of a chance to increase in value. Dak is actually a pretty good value too right now. He's going to like QB 23, and he's outside of this past season has finished as a top 12 quarterback in every single season. What's one more guy that you're willing to just take a shot on?
Yeah, Fields was my guy, so we kind of hit that together. It's definitely, I mean, you could always go the route with like Geno Smith now that they got Clint Kubiak, just a good, cheap, high-end QB3 vet that you can get for about a second, maybe a mid to late second. DK Metcalf, JSN, he has the weapons. Now Clint Kubiak's there, a guy that loves to stretch the field, run the football, get the play action going, and take shots downfield. I think that addition is going to change the Seattle offense big time next year. So he's someone that I'd be going after as like a cheaper vet. I like to say Stafford, but I don't really know what Stafford's going to do. Like there's a chance that he leaves, there's a chance he retires. So he's worrying me a little bit. He was my guy last year that I was loading up on everywhere as a QB3. Geno Smith's probably going to be that guy this year for me.
You're gonna dislike this probably, but I made a trade the other day where I gave up the 301 and a 27 third for Kirk Cousins. So Kirk Cousins, I think Kirk Cousins got rushed back. I think if you watch him play, he was not planning off that foot. Like he was not the same after that Achilles. And I'm like, I could see Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford gets traded to the Raiders or the Giants. Please let Matthew Stafford go to the Giants. Like, could you imagine Malik Neighbors? But I could see Kirk Cousins going to the Rams then. Like, he feels like he could be a McVay guy, very similar, get the ball out quickly. Like, he's going to get traded. I don't think Atlanta's going to sit there with the contract that he has. They're going to try to aggressively trade him. Why not Kirk Cousins to the Raiders where they have money, but they don't, they build around knowing that they're going to take a quarterback in the future in the next 2 years. I think the Raiders are going to be smart on how they build things, and I think Kirk Cousins has something left in the tank. What about some of these guys that everybody are, a lot of people around the community are saying, buy these Joe Milton, Spencer Rattler, Will Levis. I saw Joe Milton go for a first the other day. I was like, you saw him in week 18 in slop time. I'd rather have Jameis Winston. I think Jameis Winston's going to get a starting job, and he's going at QB 36 right now. Sam Howell, I think I haven't given up on him. I think
Sam Howell was the name I was going to say, yeah.
Was it? I'm sorry. Hey, I love when we're in sync. I didn't mean to. But, I mean, sell me on that because if he goes out with the weapons that are there, we saw him play some really good ball.
They're just never going to be able to be bad enough for at least the next year or 2 or 3 to get a quarterback. So if they give up on Geno, it's going to be, we're giving you a chance, Sam. We saw what you could do in Washington. I think he could be a fun player that in a Clint Kubiak offense can go in there and just be a gunslinger. And he has some rushing upside as well with good weapons around him. So that could just be an upside opportunity there for him there. I almost want to say Russ is a decent buy right now too, just because I do think he lands. Maybe the Giants get him, or one of these teams just gets him, and he's just a plug and play QB3 whenever you need him. Yeah, like that type of player. You don't have to hit the home run every time, but building your dynasty roster, you have to slowly build depth in QB3 and QB4s. I love having like a Lamar and like a Justin Herbert, and then having like a Geno Smith and a Russ, or a Geno Smith and a Sam Howell, or like a Derek Carr and a Russ. Like just having like guys that you can plug and play whenever you need them in Superflex is very big.
I just saw 3 trades in the last week for Russell Wilson for a pair of thirds or less. You know, like I think you're getting, because he had some solid QB1 weeks in an offense that doesn't ask a lot. You know, you put him in the Rams offense, you put him in the Raiders offense. I think it could be fun. You know, I think you get a lot of, you're like DeAndre Swift for Christian Watson and Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson honestly is worth that. One last thanks, Dad. And Snoop. So a lot of people call you Snoop. Another great show. Have a great rest of the day. Snoop. No, I love it. Snoog and I have just been cranking it on the Discord. We've been putting out, the rookie guides coming out. We're working on startup stuff. Right now, I'm in the middle of Smash Accept 17 startup, so really starting to formulate a guide there. This has been fun. We love talking quarterbacks. Make sure you check out all the YouTube videos that we've been putting out there, the edits that Brock does, the buys that we've been doing last week, rookie content coming. Snoog, every Tuesday night, it's trade night at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Every Wednesday night, it's mock night. So like,
best time of the night.
Have some fun.
Aiming for
highlight of my day.
We're aiming for end of the week rookie guide. So for those of you that know about our rookie guide that's coming out, it's got 50 plus prospects in it. Dad's going to hit on a whole, we're basically making a book, like a PDF version where it's going to have like an index with all these prospects organized by positions with combine statistics in it. So it's going to be updated. You're going to get multiple versions of it when you do purchase it. But Dad's working on a whole section of the book being about like what to do with your first. Do you trade it? Do you pick it? What can you get for it? What players are worth? All that type of stuff as well as our prospect grading model, just kind of talking about like the smash tier, the A tier, S tier, workhorse prospects, all that type of stuff is in there as its own page as well. DM Dad or I on Twitter, and we're going to put together a list. And as soon as that launches, we'll send that over to you guys and we can talk about details and all that stuff. But if you are interested, just DM us on Twitter and just say like something like, we're interested in the rookie smash guide, something like that. And yes. So Dad, I'll let you kick the outro.
Yeah. And a lot of you guys are not interested in the Discord. You're like, I just want to talk. A lot of you guys have been just reaching out in DMs. We'll do roster reviews. We'll help you with your, some people just want to do things like a la carte. That's fine. Like I hate subscriptions sometimes too, where you're just like, I'm still paying for Netflix, but we'll take care of you, man. So thanks again for tuning in, guys, and enjoy the process.